Huff's hair. Very different.
That's true.
But the assimilation of pagan practices, that's a myth.
How do we get the eggs in Easter?
That's a Middle Age thing because eggs were associated with both new life and spring in Europe. It's a European thing.
Christmas. How do we get Santa?
Santa is like a combination of Saint Nicholas, who is a 4th century bishop, and Sinterklaas in Germany. I think it's a New York thing. I think eventually the Dutch in New York.
That's fire. Good for y'all.
You're gonna take credit for that one?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he should. He should.
Yeah.
Him and him.
And so it like all comes together.
So this doesn't exist prior.
What?
The celebration of Christmas.
Oh no.
I have to point out 2 different things here. One, the issue is pagan influence on actual Christianity. Along the lines of what Sajid is talking, like Christian doctrine was influenced by pagan stuff, right? That's what Wes was talking about. No, that's a myth. Or that's a myth that Christians took this stuff from, Mithraism and all these other things. That's a myth. That was, people made that up. But when Andrew Schultz heard, oh, there wasn't this pagan influence on Christianity, he jumps to East. He's thinking of like Easter and, Easter bunnies and stuff like that and Santa Claus and so on. So, hey, wasn't this pagan influence? And guess what? Even there, no, because people think, oh, it's the emphasis on eggs because they worship a fertility goddess. No, that's what was associated with new life and spring. That's why they used it as a symbol. And so people still think that this was pagan influence on Christianity. But 2, this isn't influencing Christian doctrine. It's like Christian celebrations and so on. And 2, it actually wasn't. It didn't have pagan origins. So anyway. But anyway, he's talking about something else. I think Wes is going to bring it back to the actual issue of pagan influence on Christianity, which is the real issue he's talking about.
So Christmas goes really old. Yeah. So there's a guy named Julius Africanus in the 2nd century who's preoccupied with figuring out how old everything is, and how he gives us the date for the creation of the world. And then he like adds up. So part of what he's doing is he's a Christian and he's like, when was Jesus born? So he looked at a bunch of different things and he reckons that he's figured out when Jesus was, when when Mary got pregnant, and then he counts 9 months and gets to December 25th. And so that's, it's 24th or 25th? Why did I blank?
25th.
I was right the first
Oh, you know why?
I just ran with it. Why?
Hey, by the way, did you just catch that? He's like, when is Christmas? The 24th or 25th? I'm saying this because Wes is really sharp, but with numbers, he seems to have a problem with, like when he was talking about Jesus appearing to the 500, he said Jesus appeared to 400. And so anyway, that's an interesting little, I'm saying like that because I've been more like that with names lately. I can't remember names. Even if I've read something by a person like 10,000 times, all of a sudden I'm like, what is that name? I can't remember the name.
This is a funny thing because I probably said this quite a few times in the past on live streams as well, where people ask me about a certain thing, and my wife knows this as well. Like I will tell her entire elaborate things of stuff that happened in history, and then she asks me, "And what year was that?" I have no idea. What century was that? I don't remember. Recently we were talking about the Crusades, and I mentioned something that happened in the Fourth Crusade, and I said Second Crusade. I'm like, Second Crusade? That doesn't make sense. No, Fourth Crusade. It's like I have this whole issue with numbers as well. I don't know what it is with some people. Even if you get everything, the numbers kind of feel off a little bit. I don't know.
One of the true Christians celebrated
January 6th.
Damn it.
What's going on?
So the Orthodox do it on January 6th. But it's the same date. We just use different calendars. That's why.
Oh.
You guys stuck with the old calendar. We went to the new calendar. It's the exact same date. Our calendars changed.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What about Halloween?
Know that?
Halloween is All Hallows Eve and the
they're even talking
pagan
about Halloween.
stuff. appears to have been entirely invented by commercialization.
So you're saying there's no pagan influence?
Oh, you got that? So even Halloween, as it was originally celebrated, had nothing to do with it. But as far as the commercialization with all like witches and stuff like that, that's recent, and that's due to making it a bigger thing about candy and so on. So anyway.
On Christianity?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like the accusations of Christmas is pagan, Easter is pagan, like that's nonsense.
What about the accusations that like even the Jesus story was taken from other myths and other religions? I think like the Egyptian god Ra or something like that. Like what do you say about this? Is it just like a common occurrence? Like how do you feel? Is it bullshit?
Yes.
Really?
Well,
talk
so
that shit.
It's Jesus mythicism, and no historian, like even the people who doubt that Jesus exists, don't use that argument, because usually historians are aware of the primary sources. And if you look at the stories of like Horus, Ra, Mithras, Attis, if you look at the details and then try to find the parallels, they're just not there.
I'll give an example, which really, because I was hearing this all over the place. This was much more popular like 15, 20 years. No, matter of fact, yeah, over 20 years ago. But someone was bringing it up, and they're giving these lists of all these parallels between. They'll give a list that shows that the story of Jesus was derived from Horus. Then they'll give another one that says the story of Jesus was from Osiris, and then they'll give another one that says the story of Jesus was from Mithras. And just looking at the list, I would start going, wait a minute, you said that this was drawn from this story. Now you're saying it's drawn from that story. Now you're saying it's drawn from that story. What's going on here? But anyway, then if I eventually looked up a couple of things, and it was like messed up. So they're saying, look, Jesus is born of a virgin. Mithras was born of a virgin. See? I actually looked it up, and it said Mithras sprang from a rock. And then you bring that up to them, they're like, well, the rock didn't have sex, so it was a virgin. It's like, okay, I don't trust you guys anymore. I don't trust you anymore. If that's what you guys are doing, that is seriously messed up. So that's what Wes Huff is pointing out. These things became popular because it's like the list of quotations from the Talmud and stuff. It's easy to put a list together and share it, and it spreads really rapidly without bothering to look up anything. And so that's kind of what he's pointing out, that historians, they know the sources, and so they don't fall for this. But people at the popular level fall for this pretty quickly, pretty instantly.
Well, I saw back in a video back in the day that all those people were also born of virgins, so therefore it must be true.
See, I saw a video. I watched an entire video on this. How can you question me?
I watched a whole video when YouTube first came out in 2006. You see.
It was made up by largely and popularized by the
Dan Brown?
Zeitgeist.
Oh.
You know, the movie Zeitgeist?
Yeah.
Like a YouTube thing.
That's what it was.
It's made up from thin air. So if you look at the actual stories of like Horus, Ra, the accusations of virgin births and 12 disciples, and you won't find them in those things. You won't.
Really? And isn't there connectivity to some Indian?
I think the story of baby Krishna, I think there's some connectivity in that. I think he was the king tried to kill him, like couldn't do it.
Ah, there we have it. The Hindu jumping in with stuff is stolen from baby Krishna. Got that?
Oh, it's not that there aren't parallels that you can make.
Yeah.
It's that, like, if you look at the actual core of the details. So there's a fallacy called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, where it's this idea the Texan is shooting in the side of a barn, and he then finds the closest cluster of shots, and he paints a target around it, making himself look like a great shot, right? So if you want to find parallels, you can find them.
And then you make the accusation afterwards.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Let me...
Everyone got that? Everyone got that? You can find parallels between anyone, and then you just focus on those and you put them together and you say, you see, this story was drawn from that, when you could do that with almost anything. So he's going to give an example here.
Let me see if I can give you an example. So
right.
John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln were both, the presidencies were exactly 100 years apart. And Abraham Lincoln had...
I actually remember this put forward seriously when I was a kid, that there's something weird going on because there are so many similarities between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. So keep in mind, this isn't just he's not just giving this example as something that that you could in theory do. It's something that people have done.
Were exactly 100 years apart. And Abraham Lincoln had he had an assistant by the name of Kennedy, and Kennedy had an assistant by the name of Lincoln. Both were assassinated by a man who went by three names, right? John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald. Kennedy was assassinated in a Lincoln. And Lincoln was assassinated in the Ford Theater. So, like, if you want to go down...
I've seen all sorts of other things, like guy shot Lincoln and then fled to... anyway, there are tons of parallels. And then there are actually... Well, I can't say the joke parallels because they get naughty about Marilyn Monroe. Matter of fact, I'll say it. I saw someone said a week before his assassination, Lincoln was in Monroe, Maryland, and a week before his assassination, Kennedy was in Marilyn Monroe. Anyway.
On the rabbit trail of trying to find all these things, you could argue that John F. Kennedy never existed. He was just a copy of Lincoln. And
that's
the great one is that before Lincoln died, he was in Monroe, Maryland.
Oh,
and before JFK died,
he was in
Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, so yeah, so we must have heard. I did not see that. I did not know that he said that. I saw that. We saw that from the same comedian. I can't remember who it was, but it was a comedian from probably the 80s or 90s.
Hey! No. I didn't say it. Mark did. But it's these kind of things, right? So you
That's
can
beautiful.
find, you can find parallels.
I saw this on...
Everyone get the takeaway. You can take two people from two different times and so on, look at their entire lives, find some details in common, then put all those details together and say, look, there are 5 features in common between this guy and this guy. Therefore what? Therefore what? Therefore this guy's made up, and they just, they made him up as a copy of this former guy. And it's just stupid. It's a stupid way.
Look at the comment section. Black Angel says Christian channel. Christian connection. I thought this was a good Christian channel.
It sucks because I was like, I don't want to tell the joke. That I remember. And I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and say it anyway. So I'm like, I know, I'll go ahead and say it anyway because now I said that there's a joke. But then I didn't have to because the guy says that there's a joke. Anyway.
I got VHS when I was like 8 years old.
That's good. That's a credible
source. My details are...
no,
it's a story of Baby Krishna. But the details are a little iffy. But I remember growing up in such a Christian country that I was like, oh, they took this from the Bible.
Right.
But I didn't know Hinduism was older and the story of Krishna was older. So that just came to me. That wasn't like... I'm trying to find the thing. And that always just stuck with me because I remember thinking like, oh, they stole this from Christianity, which is very funny.
So there's also like issues of correlation and causation. So if you do find parallels and you want to assert that Christians invented it, you have to find the causative links rather than just the correlations.
Yeah.
Because the correlations could actually exist, but things correlate all the time.
Yeah.
And the idea of an incarnation within Christianity is very different than the idea that you would find in something like Hinduism or even like miraculous births in the ancient world.
So there he's pointing out you can have correlations. You got something over here and you've got it over there. But that doesn't mean that one actually caused the other. In other words, if you let's suppose you're in a completely different part of the world at a completely different time and they have a story about someone rising from the dead or something like that. Oh, okay, well, they have a story about someone rising from the dead. Well, Christians have a story about someone rising from the dead. Therefore, someone copied the other. It doesn't mean that. Human beings in different places and different times are still obsessed with the idea of dying and what happens afterwards and stuff like that. So you can kind of come up with the same thing without one causing the other. And so you have to be careful with the parallels. Oh, here's a parallel between Jesus and someone else. Therefore, someone stole that from Christianity or Christianity stole that from someone else.